2023 is almost over, Anthony, and this is our final show of the year. What's the first thought that comes to your mind?
I'm going to miss you.
Oh,
I'm Anthony. Welcome to No Vacancy Live. That's my friend Glenn.
You're watching the #1 show in hospitality. Hey everybody, and welcome to the final live show of No Vacancy Live for 2023. We look forward to welcoming you all back for more live shows at the top of the year. That's Anthony Melchiori. I'm Glenn Hausman. Anthony, it's so great to see you today. Welcome back.
2024, our lineup is so stocked with super people that we can't even tell you who they are.
Well, neither can you because you never look at the schedule, but that's the mystery of it, doesn't it? You know?
No, I resemble that remark.
Yeah, well, honestly, because our producers are so good, like I know that they're taking care of people, but I don't necessarily know who's on which day of the week. So, Anthony, what is that?
Who's on first?
Yeah, exactly. Before we get into it, any big holiday plans that you want to alert us to here?
No, just we're at home, and I go to my sister-in-law's on Christmas Day, my house Christmas Eve. And all the children are home, and the kids are home from college.
Excellent.
And well, actually, my last one, who's a senior, is home, and my other two will be home. So just chilling, man.
Yep.
How are you?
Good. My boys are home. We went out and did an activity this morning, and then we got a little breakfast together. So that was really nice.
Are you like what the activity was?
Doctor's appointment.
Oh, when you did activity, I thought it was like you went bowling or something.
No. I was just trying to be, vague about it purposely, particularly since you knew that I went to the.
Well, you did tell me that.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, it slipped my mind.
Yeah, but just everybody knows it was not an issue of anything like that. Now, for me, I'm excited because tomorrow night here on the internet at 5 p.m. for Friday Night Audit, I'm doing my newest Christmas tradition, Anthony, and that will be singing Christmas songs written by Jews. So I'm excited. I'm excited to celebrate my people through their love of Christmas.
Is there any Jewish people on the show?
No, I don't believe our next guest is a member of the tribe. I suspect he'll be celebrating Christmas with you. Let's bring him on right now, celebrating 5 years of CoralTree Hospitality. Tom Luersen, President. How are you, sir? Merry, happy holidays.
Awesome, you guys. Happy holidays and happy Hanukkah to
Thank
all
you.
of our friends. There you go.
I'll tell you what, Tom, I feel a little ripped off this year because Hanukkah was way too early, and I'm not ready to celebrate the holiday season so early. I love it when Christmas and Hanukkah overlap, and it's just a big, fun celebration,
You're empowered to extend the season as you wish, sir.
As a matter of fact, being that I'm a non-religious person, culturally speaking, we have done that. We waited till my kids came home, and everyone's welcome over here at the Hausman Resort Pool Club and Smokehouse for Latke Night on December 26th. So that'll be exciting.
I will speak to God, and He will give you permission, I'm sure.
All right. So to get everybody up to speed, CoralTree Hospitality is a 5-year-old management ownership company out of there, based out of Colorado. And what's really exciting is that you folks have such an incredible pedigree before you started this organization there, right? Coming from destination hotels, from Two Road Hospitality, and now you got all those years of experience, and you got to create a company the way you wanted to do it. Since you're celebrating 5 years, the best place to start was your origin story. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, gosh, Glenn, it's a great setup for the conversation. You're right. We're owned by a family office out of Los Angeles, the Lowe family. And it's not to be confused with Lowe Hotels or Lowe Hardware, but, it's a fully integrated real estate company and led by Bob Lowe, who's the patriarch, and his two boys. And they started in hospitality 51 years ago. Last year, we celebrated 50 years for a year, a great celebration. So while CoralTree literally just celebrated 5 years on December 1st, there's this sense of kind of chemistry and history that we have together. We've had 3 names in the 51 years, Destination Hotels, and then back in 2016, we acquired John Pritzker's company called Commune Hotels and Resorts. And that was formed a joint venture, so we had to rename it. We renamed Two Roads Hospitality. And then, from that time, we had about 100 hotels, 5 different brands.
Yep.
The Alila brands and Thompson brands and Joie de Vivre. And then we created our independent brand into a collection called Destination. Well, a couple of years later, we were approached and ended up selling Two Roads Hospitality to Hyatt Hotels. And that was really just the preponderance of the management contracts, about 80, 85 contracts.
And now let me just put a pause on that for 1 second. And by pure coincidence, we had the incredible Katie Johnson on, VP and Global Brand Leader of the Independent Collection of Hyatt, who is now the steward of those brands, on last week. So check our database. Tom, please continue.
Yeah, Katie's awesome, by the way. She worked for us, and she's just a world-class marketeer, and she's doing wonderful things. And I think highly of her. But so we had, in short, we just ended up selling the company to Hyatt effectively 2018, and we sold it to Hyatt because we thought they'd be great stewards of the business. There's a chemistry from a value standpoint about the way we run our businesses. They're obviously a much more global hotel, and we are smaller in scale for sure, and lean more toward the independent structure. So we started CoralTree the day that we closed on Hyatt, which was December 1st, 2018, and here we are. And man, it's been a whirlwind. But gosh, I'm really proud of what's been accomplished and the way in which we've done our business. I still think we lead with our values first as a company. We can talk about metrics and how many rooms and how many keys and revenues, but it all starts to sound very transactional and institutional. So I would be more toward the conversation about culture and values and how we differentiate.
Yeah, Tom, and you know us well enough. That's the kind of stuff that we really like to talk about. I know Anthony's itching to talk. Let's let him.
I'm not itching to talk. I wasn't even.
In the video here, I'm like,
you know what I like to do the most is I like to realize that I'm connected to everybody in this industry somehow. Yeah. So I'm going to say a name, and you're going to see him smile. All right. Mark Hickey.
Actually, you're right. I'm smiling. I just talked, Anthony. I talked to Mark last night, and I was texting with him this morning. And Mark and I go back 25 years. He was a real reason why I joined Lowe, because he was working in Dallas at the DFW Hilton, decades ago, and I was running the Woodlands Resort hospitality platform in Texas, and we were colleagues. And we ended up selling that company, and Mark was recruiting. So Mark's a great man. He's doing good work for Hyatt now, and he and I talk to each other regularly.
He was my boss when I worked for Miller Global, who I'm sure you know.
Of course.
Miller Global, with the nicest people I've ever worked with. And so that's where I met Mark, and he was my boss. I think he was the regional. And one day I was having a disagreement with someone that worked within the company, his company, Destinations, and he had to kind of get in the middle of it, like through a conference call. I'll never forget the words. I said it last week, actually, to Katie. I'll never forget the words. He said, "Anthony, get off the train track."
Well, he's when you speak about values, by the way, Mark's one of those guys, as you know, Anthony. He leads a business with values, and he certainly had a good career before he joined us, but he was with us for 25 years. And
amazing guy. And when he said that to me, I knew exactly what he meant. So he called me later. I won the argument. They listened to me. We went with my budgets to the ownership, and but I like the fact that he said, "Listen, your points are good. Now get off the train track because you're about to get run over." so I never forgot that. I really respect him tremendously. He was always very kind to me, and he's one of the good guys in this. Well, there's a lot of good guys, but he's one of the really good people in this industry. And it was a great experience.
Well, you're a pro at doing this. I listen to your show all the time, and the way that you connect dots in the network. And it's the best thing about our business. And I've been doing this 40 years. And I started long ago in my dad's company. And I think about these friendships like Mark, and I've got a great friend down the road that you guys probably know, Steve Bartlin, who runs the Broadmoor and Sea Island. Steve and I worked together, 40 something years ago in Nashville at Opryland. And we've just stayed good friends. I just love that about our business, right?
Yeah,
Man.
It's amazing. And you know what? Congratulations, you beat me. I only have 38 years, so it's very I have more time than I do. You know what? We still look young and we still are vibrant. That's amazing.
Well, I like the way that you see ourselves. Thank you for saying that. I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
You know what it is? I do a lot of talking to young people, and I'm consulting. And you know what I say to people is the problem with what everybody's telling me today is nobody wants to work and all this stuff, and they don't like working Christmas and the holidays. And I say the problem is with the younger supervisors who don't have the right mindset, that either accept mediocrity or they're part of the issue because they don't know how to deal with those challenges. When we were coming up in this business, we didn't realize there were challenges because we just wanted a job and a paycheck, and we just wanted to contribute and show our value. So the mindset of if you do those extra hours and you do those holidays, guess what? You'll be a general manager 20 years faster than most people because today we're desperate for leadership. So if you show that leadership early on, you will be promoted quicker than most people.
Yeah, gosh, I mean, you and I are aligned on that, but I take a little different angle. You know, I've been on, gosh, like you guys, a lot of panels and conversations, and someone's always talking about the millennial, and they speak to us because we're far from millennials. My kids are even almost past that now, and you know, there's the expectation that I'm going to say is, man, they don't work hard like we did, and they don't do this and they don't do that, and I actually just think that's all crazy talk. I just think they're working smarter. And I think my father, when I was coming up in the business, said, man, you're doing it so different than the way I used to do it. We didn't need an education to be in the hotel space. We, you know, went to the, you know, school of experience, and we came up that way. And what do you mean you've got to go get a degree and an MBA and you've got to learn about investments? Can't you just take care of the guest? And here we are now, you know, father's passed, I'm 30 years later, and I'm hanging around these millennials, and I think, man, God, they're so smart. They're exposed to so much data and so much things. And my thought is nothing's ever changed. We got to find people in our business that have a big heart and they love to serve. But if they can do it with technology and innovation and smart thinking, more power, that's what's going to change our world. So I embrace it.
I say it all the time. I say they're smarter than us. And I wish that I was in a position back then to be able to say, hey, I don't want to do this because we can do it this way and it's easier. I wish I had an opinion. When I was coming up early on, there wasn't too many opinions, at least in my career. They just would kind of tell you how it's done. So today, I think we have some of the smartest people in the business, even the young people. They've just got to get past the some negative thoughts of this industry. And, you know, one of the things, if you go into the hospitality industry in Europe, it's seen as a profession. You come in America and it's not seen so much at the lower level. At the lower level, everybody, you start wherever you start, but this is a real profession. You can make real money and do really, really well. And we just need people to stay in long enough to do that. You know, I'm mentoring kids today, and I'm just like, just give me another 6 months. Just give me another 6 months. And as soon as they do, like, you know, I just got promoted. I'm making this much money. Oh, and they said next year I'll be probably in this position. I'm like, say, just hold on. You know, it's like that's my the only thing I want to do is like, just hold on. And your intelligence and the way you work will get you to where you want to go.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. I would say, though, also, I'm out to banter with you a little bit. Think about this. When I was picking to go to a hotel school, that I think the year was 1981. I went to Michigan State, went to Cornell, went to FIU, went to just the beginning of what was the UNLV. You know, toured all, was fortunate to be invited to all four of them. Ended up going to Florida. We had limited choices. Now, fast forward, you know, another 40 years, every university of significance or specialized has a great program. And it's not just in hotel management. Now it's in spa and wellness. Right. You know, it's in specialty marketing. You know, it's in culinary and not just in CIA. Right. It's in specialized. You know, so to me, while we look at the European hospitality world and some of their experiences go back to 100 years ago, where we're just got started literally in the last 30, 40 years, we're making good advancements, and we're finally, to your point, we're paying people good. You can make a real living now being a leader in our business. And that doesn't mean just necessarily being a general manager or a corporate executive. There's a variety of good ways to make real money. And that wasn't an option that we knew about back in the days. Those were such an exception. So I'm bullish on the long haul of this. And I just think, the millennials will be serving our guest of the future. It won't be the three of us that it's a guest anymore.
Right.
My 35-year-old who becomes 45-year-old, and we're going to continue to adapt. And the smartest part, or the smartest minds in our business, is staying ahead of that and not trying to hold on to the past and say, well, we still have to have, sophisticated, elegant service. You can still have luxury, but the elegance is now far and few between.
Somebody called me. I was making a reservation, and they said, Anthony, this is your confirmation. Didn't ask permission. Didn't just call me Anthony. I liked it because she had a sweetheart. She was very kind the whole reservation. And when she called me Anthony, I don't need to be asked to be called Mr. Mercury. I don't need you to use my name 3 times. You called me Anthony. I enjoyed it. We had this little connection. And that's authentic service. That was authentic service to me. Chip and I from AHLA were working on a new show called Hotel All-Star. We were just on the phone the other day with his team. And how are we going to get people excited to come back into this industry or come into this industry? And we did 2 shows, one at the Breakers, one at Margaritaville. And that's my only passion. My only passion to get people into the hospitality schools and to get people into this industry and then hold on. Because it is a tough business early on, maybe for you, because you're entry level. But there's no place, I don't think, anybody I know that's been doing this a long time is so happy. I mean, I've never met anybody that's been in the business 25 years that hasn't said, like, I couldn't believe I would do anything that I could do anything else. I love this business. I don't know anybody that's been 25, 30 years ago, oh, I made a mistake and I can't wait to transition out. I've never heard anyone say that.
That's so well said. I mean, I think about the 3 names we just talked about.
Yeah.
Right? We have commonality. The Mark Hickeys of the world that are approaching the older ages of the late 60s, and Steve Barlin in his 70s. Bob Lowe, 86 years old, still loves. And when someone says you're going to retire, he's like, why would I do that? I love what I do. I have a good life. I've got a good balance. I love being around people I can learn for. And I think that's a little bit rare in our business. When you get into more of the corporate minded industries, there's a race that last decade from 50 to 60 is how can I get an early package out? And by the way, I'll hang on. I don't really like it, but I'll hang on and get paid. And then maybe when I'm done, I'll go get a job I really like.
Yeah, I'm laughing because I have a friend that's doing that right now. He's just like, I'm just going to coast to the finish line because I'm here,
And then you leave at 63, 64, and then you're dead.
Yeah. Then you're wondering what to do, or if you're blessed, and you find something you love, then you think, what the heck did I do? Why did I wait so long? And did I really need to hang on for that last X amount of dollars and just like it so much?
Last year, me and Glenn were in these cabins up at state, and there are all these.
It was a year ago, literally today, we did that show.
And I remember we're sitting at the bar, and we're talking to this bartender, and she said, I'll tell you the story, and I'll tell you how me and him felt. We felt so blessed, but the bartender said, what would you like to drink? And the mixologist, I should say. And we're in this cabin. It's only her. They're all there because of us, and they're taking great care of us. And he said, anything but gin. And she looked at him. She goes, why would you give me that challenge? I'll be right back. And they made him a gin drink that he loved. And I remember that moment because we were both feeling blessed that here we are. It was snowy out. We're in this beautiful cabin. People are taking good care of us. And this young lady, without ever being trained to say that, without ever going to hospitality school, she made a moment for me, at least for me. I don't know my client, but her saying that, I was like, that's this business, that's this. And she was all tatted up, and she was all kind of like her own self. And she was an entrepreneur behind the bar, and I loved it.
Yeah, guy, I get, it just inspires me when you say that kind of stuff
Mhm.
because look, here you are, right? A media specialist, a hospitality industry expert. A year later on a broadcast, you're telling the
Right.
story. I mean, come on, that's what we talk about, right? Every day is the ability to create a cool moment, the moments of delightfulness that
Right.
make someone talk about. And it's not this, go back to the old school. It's not this refined experience. It's more about engagement and connection points. So I just love that. And every time I hear those little stories, I get motivated and you get reminded, man, let's not get too caught up on strategic growth and
Right.
these other things. Let's remember while we're here, excuse me, and do good things with it.
Yeah, Tom, this is a great bridge into one of the things that I say often when I'm doing keynote speeches on stage is nobody comes back from a vacation and says you have to go to XYZ place because you're not going to believe that lamp that was in the room. That's important. It adds to the overall vibe, but they always say so and so did this for me. So and so made this special for me. So it always comes back to the people. You have to have all the other stuff. But if you don't have those right people there, they're not going to be able to make those important connections with the guests that are critical for overall success. So how do you start to think about the guest experience through your amenity services and most importantly, the people?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's a little bit of our own philosophy, but it's exactly what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It's the unscripted moments, right? That bartender that Anthony was speaking about, no
Mm-hmm.
one trained him for that moment.
Right.
You hired for a personality, you created a culture at that business model that said, look, if you hear something, you have a conversation with somebody, you're empowered to go make a good decision and to
Right.
do something special for them. Those are words, but you put words to action in a business model like we do. We try to, deliver with culture is, every guest is themselves, right? Every guest is an individual. We can't treat them all the same. So how do we have those moments? How do we create an autonomous environment where the housekeeper, the maintenance executives, the front desk clerks, not just the GMs and that, executive level of the hotel or the resort, we need everybody to be able to engage and do something special. And I think we spend, in our company, we spend 10 times more time trying to create those moments by sharing best practices, celebrating those moments. If that was my hotel and I knew that bartender did that, I'd get a little note from Anthony or that bartender would tell me, and man, I'd be talking about it in staff meetings and celebrating and hoping that by demonstrating what somebody did to make a special memory, the next person wants to stand in line and do that. So
not only that, but it gives them some practical information that they could file away and realize, oh, these are the types of things I can do if they're a young person who didn't realize that at that point. So
what I loved about that moment was that Glenn appreciated it as a customer, but as a hotel guy that's been operating and trying to get people to do things like that, like I think it meant almost more to me than it meant to you because
it did.
Like, right?
It did. It meant a lot to me, and it was really that and some other things like that during that particular experience are going to stay with me forever. But I haven't talked about it as much as you have and brought it into our everyday conversations
100 times.
Yeah.
And because there's a couple things going on there. When they feel free to do that, they trust their confidence that they're going to that Glenn's not going to say, no, I do not want gin. Like, don't do that. Like they were confident enough because there are people that would be like that. And
with her people skills, she read that we were those types of people.
Right. And that's where we get up. And I think in our industry, and I think I've always been, early on the word renegade,
right?
Because I am good at board meetings and I'm really good at asset management and financials and development. I have those skill sets. But I get bored real quick when people forget that the housekeeper is the most important person in the building. That really, really gets me irritated quickly. And as people get more promoted, get to the next level, they kind of forget that pain. Remember the first time you walked into a hotel for your first job, how nervous you were? like every day I still feel that I want to feel those nerves. I want to feel like, am I contributing? Am I doing the right thing? And I think sometimes our confidence gets the best of us where we forget. Like I'm doing some classes for a consulting gig I'm doing, and these people in the class are very, very insecure about, speaking up sometimes. But I love that because I'm giving them the opportunity to grow their confidence in these classes. And, like listening to you, I mean, it sounds like you just came into this business yesterday. You still have such a passion for it.
Yeah, gosh, there's so much on that topic. There's an academic term that I've challenged a lot of our executives and team leaders to read, and it's all perceptive acuity. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that term, but in essence,
I've never heard that, but I through context clues, I think I understand it. Sounds interesting.
yeah, I mean, it's what we do, right? I mean, you two are just, world-class examples of it, where
Thanks.
your industry teaches you how to read your customer, right? You might get someone on a broadcast, you might be a little shyer or a little harder to engage, and you read that and you start facilitating. You might get someone who might speak too much, and you learn how to soften that and play it out, and that's all perceptive acuity. And if you could somehow, the bartender and the housekeepers, they don't, if we can teach them how to read and how to anticipate, right? How to engage in a conversation that can happen within 15 seconds. Oh gosh, why are you here, Anthony? Oh, you're here with Glenn celebrating and going to do a show here? Oh, what's the show on? In 5 seconds, they can figure out a way to serve you. But that doesn't just happen innately. The leadership and the organization has to create an environment that invites that invites you to have a conversation. I like, the individuality, right?
Yeah.
Every bartender serves the same drink and has the same proportions, but the style of conversation is customized. It's for each of them. It's whatever they're comfortable with, as long as it's in the parameters of, fair and good conversation. But that's what you're trying to build I think, a hospitality platform on. It could be a hotel, a resort, a restaurant, a bar, whatever it is. But when you get that, that's what people remember, is the customization and the real recognition of individuality.
People say to me, well, what's the secret of creating that? I say, well, let's start with the word safe. People have to feel safe. And once they feel safe, you can build upon that. But you can't build upon that with salary and titles unless they feel safe. And what does that mean? And I think like that's why I remember Mark, because that moment I was pretty like, no, this is I know the owners. This is the way I think that we should do this. And I remember Mark made me feel safe that I can speak pretty directly, but he also reminded me like, okay, you win, next. And like I felt safe. I wouldn't have felt safe. I wouldn't have been as direct if I didn't feel safe with Mark. Mark, through his actions, told me, hey man, you do a good job. I have your back. And I appreciate that. So I think a lot of us, or a lot of ownership management companies, forget that you can't drive the ship. You can't get that feeling unless people are feeling secure.
Yeah, I think there's another component of that too, and that's to embrace failure, right? And failure doesn't have to be. I'm not talking about catastrophic failure, but I'm talking about the front desk clerk who says, somebody complained, so I gave them 4 nights at $2,000 a night.
Woo.
They go, okay, that's a little overdone, right? But love your intention.
Well, what hotel was this? Who was it?
But I must have used that example 1 billion times in my career. I've used it. I've used it on this show.
I don't remember, but that's funny.
I'll let you go.
Yeah, I mean, so the key there is that we could easily knock that employee down and say, my goodness, you gave away too much and you overdid it. But if you can tolerate that, says, I can recognize your intention. How could we have done this different, not have to put out so much concession money and still recover a guest moment? And let's try something next time around, versus I'm going to write you up because you made a decision that somewhere in a handbook somewhere says you shouldn't make. And once we do that, the person's never going to have a guest recovery moment again because they're afraid they're going to have something go wrong. And if you you can accelerate at any level. It could be an asset manager running a fiduciary role, or it could be a bartender trying to make an interesting cocktail, but over pours. But to me, that environment that says, look, we're not, here to find faults. What we're here is to try business decisions that make it different for the guest experience.
Yeah, I was doing a shopping report for a client, and the rate was $369, and I said I saw it online for $329, which was kind of a fib. And within a second, you could tell she was a front desk agent. Within a second, she said, "Okay, we'll match that rate." She only had a second to match the rate, because if I was a real client looking for a lower rate, I'd have been gone.
Yeah,
and she only had a second to make that decision. It was a Sunday night, so I know they're empty because I know that area. And she immediately made the decision. She didn't him and her or make it. She was, "Okay, we'll match that. Thank you very much for telling me that." I was like, okay. And again, if you're not feeling safe or backed up, and I've used that example so many times, because at the Plaza Hotel, I implemented that, just do what on behalf of the guest, the owner, and your fellow employees. If you do it in the right spirit, you'll be protected. And somebody actually did something like that, and it was a couple $1,000s. I said exactly the same words, not as elegant as you did, but I basically said the same thing. It's like, hey, good job. What were you thinking when you were doing that? Okay, all right. Do you think maybe if we just bought them, Sunday brunch, they had a daughter, and Sunday brunch, would that have worked? Oh yeah, I didn't think about that. Okay, no problem. Now you'll think about it.
No, I agree 100%. And what's interesting is that while the three of us can sit here and talk about it and nod our heads and agree, by and large, most businesses don't do this, right? They've got leadership that says this is what we should do, but when you have that moment that doesn't go perfect and you need some guest recovery, you see where the culture doesn't work. And I talk about this all the time when you think about the tens of thousands of hotels in our country. And they're all different asset classes, right? Select service, limited service, luxury, and all those things in between. There's still only, probably less than 50 hotels, literally, in the country that do this consistently every day. And it doesn't mean you have to have a 5-star, 5-diamond, Michelin, credible source. It can be done at any asset class because it doesn't cost anything. What it costs is, the culture and people supporting that. But, when you think about those odds, then you think, I want to be in this business, because if I really believe in that, man, I can knock it out of the park, because we've got a lot of mediocrity somewhere else. And if we really do this the way we want to do it, we can do something special and really make some money and do something special in our business.
Glenn, I'm sorry that we've kind of taken this.
No, it's just that this is the type of show I love, sitting back and listening to what you guys have to say. So
if I could tell one more story.
Yeah, totally.
I write about it in my book, Show Up. You can get it for the holidays. And you just said, again, a lot of things that I've said in the book and just on stage and everywhere I go, is I've run 3-star hotels, 4-star hotels, 5-star hotels. It starts with, and Glenn's heard me say this, it starts with the 5-star baby theory. Whether you're born perfect, whether you're born with some challenges, God doesn't make mistakes. You're born as a 5-star baby. And then you allow your environment to reduce that star. So if you go to a hotel, or you work at McDonald's, or you work at wherever you work, and someone's wearing their uniform incorrectly, and the supervisor hasn't corrected them, then you're going to start walking around with your uniform not maybe perfect. I don't have that gene. You can all look like slobs. I'm always going to look, like I'm supposed to look. And I'm going to act like
that was a direct attack at me, by the way, Tom.
Right? and because, they didn't make a mistake when I was born, right? And they didn't make a mistake when you were born. So I'm going to show up the way I've always shown up. And I'm not going to let my circumstances surrounding me lower my standard. And that's what you're talking about. And I'm so glad you said that. Somebody with your experience at your level said something that I've never said, but I probably thought a million times. There's maybe, and we're being generous, 50 hotels in our country that do that consistently. And I was just at the Breakers in Palm Springs, where we did a show there, and they do it consistently. And it's because it comes from people like you. If you're sitting in a hotel as the general manager, the vice president, that hotel is going to run the way we were just speaking, because it comes out of you. What I find I've always worked for independent. I've always worked for the Globals of the world. I always worked for private owners. That's been my thing, and I've loved it. I didn't have a lot of people above me. And what people happen in corporations, and a lot of these hotels are run by corporations, they're afraid of what their boss is going to say. If you put in a culture of you don't have to be afraid, again, back to Markicki. It's the first time I've actually worked in that environment where I actually had a regional and a vice president. I've always been a general manager working for the owner. But he made me feel like I can say it. And so that's where I think we've fallen off a little bit, that everybody's got a boss. You got a vice president, you got an asset manager, you got senior vice president, you got this person. So if that person at the top doesn't really kind of see that and understand that and filter that through, it gets stuck somewhere in the pipe.
Well, it's interesting on the analogy there, because there's two distinctive words that you use. One was independent and the other one was corporate. And it's what's interesting is in the independent model, there usually isn't a hierarchy, right? It's a much more flat line structure of ownership to management. Yet and this is no knock on large, hospitality industry companies, they've all had great success, but there's a lot of hierarchy. And I always think it's interesting, the hotel executives that have the largest portfolios, they're the furthest removed from the physical hotel.
Right.
So they live in a headquarters office somewhere that no longer has hotels, and they get into an office dynamic, and that's how they survive, is take care of the boss above them or below them or side you, as opposed to take care of the business. And in the independent space, which is why we lean in this direction heavily, you're very empowered and you make the decisions with the people on hand, and you don't have this hierarchical leadership that one's trying to impress the other for survival. You can stay focused in on the business. So it's interesting, that analogy, and even in your description of using the word corporate versus independent, and that you also like that space the most.
Yeah, listen, at the end of the day, I always say I'm a busboy. I'll be a busboy the day I die. And people, when they meet me and when I work with clients, they don't understand. I just had this conversation. I have it almost every week. It's like, they're like, what are you going to do? I was like, yeah, I want to do that. They're like, really? You want to do a shopping report? You want to talk to, you want to teach classes? Like, yeah, that's what I want to do. Listen, I've been very fortunate in my life. I've proven some things to myself. And I'm like, but you'll catch me in a hallway talking to a housekeeper. If I'm in a hotel, I'll spend 45 minutes talking to a housekeeper, and I'll probably miss a meeting, because I want to know how that person feels, because that person is working and cleaning 12 rooms, 14 rooms, 15 rooms, going home, taking care of their family, doing what they need to do, taking the bus or driving to work, getting there at 6 o'clock in the morning, working physically all day and doing it over and over and over again. And typically with a smile on their face, and they're just glad to have the job. And so to me, the second I remove myself from that feeling, I should never do this again.
Amen to that. I mean, when we started CoralTree, Anthony, I talked to the Lowe's about it, whether I was going to do something different or start a new company. And I've just got the ultimate respect for them. And they said, Tom, what do you want to do? And I said, look, what I want to do is get away from a corporate environment, and I want to get back to running hotels and resorts and collaborating. When we were Two Roads, we were a good mid-sized company, right? We had 23,000 employees. I had a GM reporting to an area, reporting to a regional reporting to a senior reporting to an EVP, and 4 EVPs reporting to me. And I got so far removed from talking on a day-to-day basis to the people that had the greatest instincts, the housekeeper, the concierge, the bellman, the bartender, the people that are interfacing with our guest. And so I said, look, we're going to flatline this. So even today, if you look online, I don't have any C-suite executives. That's intentional. I've got the functions and the competency that could be C-suite executives anywhere in our industry, but I chose not those titles. I don't have an executive committee. You know why? Because everybody has an executive committee, and it starts to sound hierarchical, and every company starts to sound like the other company. And the whole notion is that our organization needs to be principle forward, meaning that we're not going to be so removed that we don't know, that it's Ashton, the director of revenue management at Terranea, where maybe before I might not have met Ashton. Thank you, Glenn. I saw that. I used the Terranea reference behind.
Yep.
But we need to know each other. And the simple philosophy, right? They teach you in MBA schools. You take care of the guest. You take care of the team, take care of the guest. Guest takes care of the owner, and then you repeat and rinse all over again. It's a simple formula, but schools like Wharton and Cornell and Harvard and MIT, you spend 2 years getting an MBA trying to understand what that really means and how it gets monetized and how you deliver it. And if you can live in business here where you really get to know people, and then you can be agile enough to listen and make changes, what's the worst thing? The housekeeper says, you know what?
Right.
I love our beds and they're awesome, but I can't clean them because I can't get around them and I can't lift the mattress to make a corner fold. What can we do about that? If I don't do anything now, I've created a bad environment. So I'm really, if there's something I'm proud about with CoralTree is that we're highly engaged with a team that touches the guest, and we're willing to customize every property to do what we need to do to make a great experience. And we're
every new favorite guest, Glenn.
I know. Don't tell all the other guests that. Tom, we got a question for you. Mr. Cards is asking. He's a GM in Pittsburgh, I believe. Weekends to this day are challenging finding employees. How do you feel about pay increases or other incentive ideas that you implement?
Yeah, it's I feel the same way today that I did 30 years ago, which is, look, if you want top talent, you pay top wages. And wages doesn't always come across in just what's your hourly rate or what's your salary. It's a package, right? If the three of us are going to go out and do something different, the salary might be somewhat meaningful, but what's more meaningful is the other stuff. So we worked really hard to try to create compensation packages that has people perform at the highest level. So we're performance based. I believe your compensation shouldn't be capped. It should be tied into the guest experience. Everybody in the company, including me, and I share it every year, has similar, if not exact, criteria. We have guest satisfaction, employee engagement. They're equal to GOP, right? Where if you look at all our competitors in most hotels, they'll say, well, I know guest satisfaction is important and team is, but look, we should put more weight on EBITDA and more weight on GOP. I'm like, wait a minute, I thought you agreed on this philosophically, what's important. Right. I do, but I don't think we should, let's have everyone focused on incentive. I'm like, what doesn't work? So we've got a really balanced approach to compensation. Finding the talent, most of our industry colleagues are talking how hard it is. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to go down that path. My view is, I don't know when it was easy. And if you all can remember when it was easy to find good talent, you've got better memories than I do. So what do? Every day I'm hunting, right? I got a little cafe I like to stop and have coffee and breakfast in. 2 of the staff members now work for us, right?
Yeah.
We got a local dry cleaner. This wonderful lady just was so awesome. She now works for one of our hotels. So we're trying to find people who have the right spirit, and then we're going to pay them fair wages. Our agenda is to try to pay at the top 75 percentile of the market, and then every position try to create a performance metric that they can exceed their wages by at least 25 to 30% if they're performing at the highest level. It's not an entitled wage. And then we're creating, for mid-management and long-term management, we're creating longer-term incentives, which our industry stayed away for a long time. Their fear was, wait a minute, what do you mean I'm going to give someone a long-term incentive plan or an LTIP if you're a GM? Well, what if they're here? I'm going to have to pay them. Like, yeah, wouldn't that be great that we could write someone a check for $500,000? Right. We're going to stay for 5 years and we didn't have to turn it over 3 times. And when we turned it over each time, we probably lost $2 million in a hotel in intangible dollars. So we created long-term incentive plans, mid-term incentive plans tied into metrics that are balanced between qualitative and quantitative.
What if you're at the property level and you have to convince your bosses or owners of this sort of philosophy? What's a good strategy for that?
Well, I think everything it gets measured in returns. So sometimes when I speak about culture so much, someone might think, oh my gosh, must be a great company because nobody looks at a P&L. That's not true.
Right.
Our portfolio is performing at 105% index. Our guest satisfaction to our competitors is serving at 104% index, meaning we're punching above our weight. So everything gets measured. So at the company level, my view is that I'm sitting down with the front desk agent and I'm talking to Mary. And Mary, if making $22 an hour at Terranea at the front desk, and I say, Mary, every time Anthony comes in, would you let him know there's a suite available? And that if he wants to stay there, we'll give it to him at a great value because it's empty tonight for an extra $100. Anthony, if you want it, it would normally cost you, another $1,000 a night. And Mary, by the way, if you do that, I'm going to share that with you. I'm going to give you 25% of that uptick. And if you do that, Mary, and you do that one time a day, 5 days a week, you're going to add 55% to your $22 wage. But you know what, Mary? It's up to you.
Right.
You do it if you don't want to do it. That's what we're doing on our property level.
And that's so critical. And where those programs fall apart is when they do it, they're not paid immediately, and then the manager stops implementing it and everybody forgets about it. And it's when, to your point, is when you're having that conversation with them, explaining to them, and then keeping that program up, and then celebrating the program, putting it in the back, putting up a sheet of paper, and celebrating where everybody is, and doing it every day, making sure they get paid as fast as possible, and making sure that we're celebrating it. And so people talk about it, but very few people do it like you do, where it's like, we're going to celebrate this and we're going to talk about this.
And you can apply that everywhere. I mean, sometimes you think it's always just the guest facing, right? But you can do it. We manage a bunch of golf operations, so you can, incent and motivate our, agronomy teams by saying, look, if you can get your job done in 4.5 hours, I'm going to pay you 4.5 days. Excuse me. We're going to pay you for 5 days. Can we do it efficiency? What's going to be the process? And by the way, if you can take off on a Friday where you normally would be here till 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, and be done at noon, here's what you'll do. But you got to do things swiftly, safely, and you got to do them in a qualitative way. And there has to be a process for that. So I don't think there's a one answer, fits every function. To me, it's all customization. What's good for the housekeeper, right? Sometimes what's good for the housekeeper is that if they could work 4 days versus working 5 days, if they could get a guaranteed weekend off, two times in a month, as opposed to being in a random schedule.
Right.
How do we take care of people who take care of us? That's what we do.
Beautiful.
I love that. No, we're done, Glenn. Sorry.
No, it's freaking amazing. I love this this kind of stuff. I think this is what really adds to the depth of our show and what separates us from others out there. But I want to ask you real quick before we get going about new development next year. And unfortunately, this is the best I could do. I cut off part of the picture. Pier 66 coming to Fort Lauderdale. Reason why I picked it out is that I love modernizing and bringing classic buildings into the present. This is such a gorgeous piece of mid-century modern architecture. How are you approaching this renovation and meeting the guest needs in 2024 as opposed to when this thing was built in, I guess, early 1960s?
Yeah, you were spot on.
Yeah.
First of all, I smile when you put that picture up because, like I said, I've been doing this 40 years, and I've built or been a part of building and operating a lot of new hotels. We have 9 of them under construction right now. This is the most complicated, most expensive project I've ever done in my career.
Whoa, really?
So Terranea, you had the picture of Terranea, which is a world-class resort in Palos Verdes. That was a $500 million investment. So
that was like 15 years ago.
16 years ago, yeah, great memory. Regardless of present value, calculations, this is a $2 billion project, a construction project, and that's a B, and it's an independent property, so it has no brand affiliation, and being built and designed and intended to be awarded at all the accolades that begin with the number 5. 5-star, 5-diamond.
Mm-hmm.
We've got unbelievable decor in here. And it's, interesting enough, it's not on the beach. And so, someone would say, gosh,
The marina,
yeah,
right?
Got the marina, and
Mm-hmm.
it's got not a marina, it's got the biggest marina in, all of Florida. And it's the gateway,
Cool.
to, the Caribbean and the Bahamas.
Yep.
So it's a big part of the customer base is those yacht owners. So what you're doing here, this is being developed by Tavistock, which, is a very successful, privately held company led by Joe Lewis, and also has this wonderful hotel that we're operating and we helped to open in Lake Nona called The Wave.
Mm-hmm.
An unbelievable product. So he's got impeccable taste. So the decor is world class. We've got restaurants. We're going to have 9 restaurants in Pier 66, a wellness and spa operation that, candidly will make all the luxury brands in the market be envious. It's going to be unbelievable. So we're going to open it in October next year. We're underway. It's been only thing that's really left is if you see right behind your head, there's the what's called the pier. At the top of that is a restaurant on Pier.
Right.
That's the only building that remains from the old. Everything else has been torn down and rebuilt. And that building we just took down to the concrete and kept some of the shell, but everything else it's just unreal. And it's
where's it located?
Fort Lauderdale.
Fort Lauderdale, Anthony. Right there on the intercoastal and on the port heading out to where cruise ships go, et cetera. So unbelievable. This will be a business model that's got about 1,000 team members serving it.
Mm-hmm.
It's got products, the guest room product, meeting space. We've got a glass ballroom. I mean, think about that. All glass to really take the benefit of the blue skies and the like. So it's going to be unreal. I can't wait for it to be done.
How many rooms?
This has got about 385 hotel rooms, and then it's got another, I'll call it 52 more villas, which are basically the equivalent of penthouse suites. And then there's condominiums on the property also that's for sale product. They're actually selling now. They've been selling condos that are going in the range between $4 and $10 million. So it's a spectacular property. You guys got to go check it out.
So spring breakers won't be staying there.
I don't think so. I don't think so. At least if they did what I did at that age, the answer is no.
I was sleeping on a beach somewhere, So Tom, you should have us out for the opening of this thing. We could do a broadcast from there and the whole
I would love you to do that.
Like that.
Love you.
Yeah. So before we wrap up, any final thoughts, any observations on 2023 and how you see 2024? Just real broad, quick comment.
Yeah, 23 has been a bit for the industry a grind, right? Debt markets been challenging. Interest rates jumped up. The loans from a lot of hotel owners, CMBS loans in particular in the urban, all are coming to maturity dates. That's the industry. At CoralTree, 23 is a phenomenal year.
Yeah,
we had a lot of new growth. We bought a new platform, a vacation rental platform with properties in all the islands of Hawaii and up in the mountains. Exciting times. And 24 is simple for me. I'm bullish. You can read the indicators. Obviously, the Feds moved the interest rates and telegraphed that. We saw the market jump. We're seeing some softening and a little bit of the debt market. And we're seeing a lot of liquidity of people who have a lot of high net worth ready to buy things. So, we're back in the business and group is back. Leisure obviously slowed down and group is back and group is spending money because they haven't been together for a while. And companies say, look, I might be worried about the economy, but in order to serve the economy, I got to have my companies come together. So our group backlog for next year is really strong and robust.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Tom, how about a good shout out for CoralTree Hospitality?
Thanks so much, you guys. Great to see you, and happy holidays to you all. I hope you have a great holiday.
And please tell Mark I said hello.
I'm going to text him in about 30 seconds, Anthony, and say,
and like I told the young lady last week, tell him I said I got off the tracks and I listened to him.
I think you've done just fine, sir.
I'll see you.
Yeah, thanks so much. I want to thank you out there so much for supporting Anthony and I and everything that we do in 2023. This has been the most incredible year, and I look forward to being here with him throughout 2024. Also, be sure to follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, No Vacancy News on YouTube, and all of our shows are housed at novacancynews.com. And don't forget, download the audio version of our shows. I know a lot of you are listening to that right now, but for those of you that are watching us, download it and get our newsletter. Text the word hotel to 66866. Merry, happy holidays, everybody. And remember, you've got one life, so blaze on and
be kind to yourself.
see you next year.